Right. Good evening, boys and girls. We are all set now to start. We are being live streamed on YouTube as well. Plus, we are on Zoom too. So, first and foremost, we will introduce you to the scene, give you a very detailed summary of what the scene is all about. I'm very sure in your schools, you must have already been taught Act 4, Scene 1. Okay. We are not just going to revise with you, but we are going to also teach you. All right. So let's begin. Right, there we go.
So like before, can we get these notes on the app?
The notes will already be sent to you, no? If I'm
Okay.
not wrong. Okay, after the session, I've been told the notes will be sent to you. And
thank you, sir. Thank you.
In all probability, the video also. So make the maximum use of it. It's all for you all only.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Just before I begin, there's an announcement to be made. All those of you who wish to avail of the PCMB, that's the physics, chemistry, maths, and biology crash course, and of course, the all subject crash course as well. Okay. In order to save your parents' hard-earned money, you are advised to use the coupon code HILBERT20. HILBERT20. Okay. This will give you a 20% discount. Plus, you will get the English literature and language crash course totally free of cost. Okay. So just a gentle reminder, in case you want to avail of the PCMB crash course and the all subject crash course, please use the coupon code HILBERT20. This will give you a 20% discount, plus the English language and English literature will be totally free for you. Having said that, let's get down to the summary of The Merchant of Venice, Act 4, Scene 1. In Venice, the trial opens with the Duke pitying Antonio and calling Shylock an inhuman wretch who is incapable of pity. The Duke tries to persuade Shylock to drop charges against Antonio, but Shylock is stubborn and will not budge. Antonio says he is prepared to suffer a sense of resignation of Shylock's oppression. Can you all hear me out there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank God. And I'm sure you can see the screen as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please follow on the screen. Shylock is then called into the court, and the Duke tells him that everyone present in the court is of the opinion that Shylock is just putting on an act of terror, perhaps to the last stage of the play, and then he will show mercy and compassion stranger than his false show of terror. The Duke further tells Shylock that he expects him to go easy on Antonio. Shylock, however, demands that justice is given according to the terms and conditions in his bond. Terms and conditions in the bond means the pound of flesh. If he is not given justice, then people will ridicule and mock the judicial system of Venice. He has no reasons to give for his desire of Antonio's rotten pound of flesh. Just like how people have no reasons for following certain superstitions. It is his hatred for Antonio that makes him demand for his pound of flesh. Okay? When I talk about superstitions, we have people, when a cat crosses their path, no cutting nails on Saturday. These are all examples of superstition. If you ask them why they do it, they don't have a proper reason. So Shylock says in much the same way, he also has no proper reason as to why he wants Antonio's pound of flesh. All he knows is he hates him. And because of his hatred, he wants it. Bassanio tries to intervene on Antonio's behalf, but Antonio stops him by saying that it is useless arguing with Shylock. Bassanio might as well argue with a wolf for killing the lamb than try to soften Shylock's hard heart. Bassanio offers 6,000 ducats instead of the 3,000 ducats owed to Shylock. But Shylock says that he will refuse to accept even 6 times the amount if offered. Okay? So 3,000 ducats is the principal amount owed. Bassanio is willing to give him double. Shylock says, even if you give me 6 times over, I will not accept. The Duke then asks Shylock, how could he possibly expect God to forgive him when he himself shows no mercy? And Shylock says that he has done nothing wrong, so why should God even be merciful towards him? He then directs his next statement to all the Christians present in the court and tells them that they have slaves whom they used in inhuman ways because they bought them. So does he demand for Antonio's pound of flesh because he has paid 3,000 ducats for it. The Duke then declares that the wise Dr. Bellario, who was going to be the judge to preside over the case, he says that the wise Dr. Bellario had been called in to decide the case between Antonio and Shylock, but he is unable to make it and has sent a letter through a messenger citing reasons. Bassanio now encourages Antonio and tells him not to lose heart. But Antonio has given up and he compares himself to a sick leader of the flock of sheep, fit to be slaughtered. And he further compares himself to a worthless, overripe fruit which falls to the ground and is rendered useless because nobody can eat the overripe fruit which has fallen to the ground and mixed with mud. Nerissa, disguised as a lawyer's clerk, enters the court and hands over a letter to the Duke from Dr. Bellario. While the Duke is reading the letter, Shylock is seen sharpening a dagger on the sole of his shoe in anticipation of the case swinging in his favor. Bassanio is concerned. And then Graciano utters filth, calling Shylock a murderous dog, wolfish, bloody, starved, and ravenous. Bellario's letter states that he has recommended a young and learned doctor of law from Rome named Balthazar to take his place in the Venetian court as he is unwell. Just then, Portia walks into the court disguised as Balthazar. The Duke greets her, and Shylock and Antonio are also shown to her. Remember, when the Duke greets her, she is disguised as a judge and in male attire. She's wearing men's clothes, so you can't make out she's a lady.
Yes.
Yeah. Portia appears to be fair to Shylock and even tells him that he is on the right side of the law. She then implores him, implores means begs him, to be merciful. But Shylock wants justice and the law. That is, Antonio's pound of flesh in accordance with the bond signed by Antonio. The bond very clearly says 1 pound of his flesh. He's demanding for that. Portia wants to know if Antonio is unable to pay the sum of money. And to this, Bassanio produces the money and even offers to pay Shylock 10 times the amount on forfeit of his head, his hands, and his heart. Bassanio even suggests to Portia that the law be twisted to save his friend Antonio. But Portia says that that could not be done. And on hearing her say this, Shylock praises her and refers to her as Daniel, the wise judge from the Old Testament. On the pretext of reading the bond, Portia again suggests that Shylock should take 3 times the money offered, but Shylock refuses. Portia further tells Shylock that legally he is entitled to Antonio's pound of flesh. She again persuades him to show mercy. When Shylock refuses, Portia gives him one last chance to reform himself before she appears hostile towards him. She tells Shylock to keep at his cost a surgeon or a medical doctor as standby to prevent Antonio from bleeding to death when his flesh is cut. But Shylock refuses, saying that it was not stated in the bond that he should keep a surgeon as standby. So Shylock even throws away the last chance of reforming himself. From now on, Portia is going to be very strict with him. With no escape in sight, Antonio resigns to his fate. He takes Bassanio's hand and tells him to speak well of him to his wife. In exchange, Bassanio and Graciano say that they would sacrifice their wives also in order to save Antonio. And Shylock is not impressed and even criticizes the nature of Christian husbands. He wishes that his daughter had married one of the descendants of Barabbas, a thief and a murderer of yore, rather than a Christian, Lorenzo. He now demands that a sentence be passed against Antonio. And Portia tells Shylock that Antonio's pound of flesh is legally his and he can take it. And Shylock is ready to cut off the pound of flesh. Shylock proceeds to extract his pound of flesh and is stopped right in the nick of time. He is reminded by Portia that although the bond grants him a pound of Antonio's flesh, it does not state that he can shed Antonio's blood. So in the process of cutting the flesh, no blood should be shed. Also, Shylock is to cut exactly 1 pound of flesh, not more, not less. If the flesh that he cuts is more or less in weight, then Shylock will have to face the penalty where his wealth will be confiscated and deposited in the national treasury of Venice. Shylock realizes that he is cornered, and so he settles for thrice the sum offered earlier by Bassanio. Bassanio is about to give him the money, but Portia stops Bassanio from making the payment by saying that Shylock had been given enough chances in the open court. He should now take only the pound of flesh and at his own risk. Shylock then asks for his principal amount of 3,000 ducats. Excuse the typing error here, please. ASKS. It's ASKS and not ASKES. So he asks for his principal amount of 3,000 ducats. But even that is refused to him. And he is told that he should either fulfill the terms and conditions given in the bond, like he was demanding, and at his own risk, or he should take nothing at all. Shylock finally gives up his claim to the money and Antonio's pound of flesh and desires to leave the court. But Portia tells him that the law now claims him, a foreigner, to be an offender for attempting to take the life of a citizen of Venice. According to the law of Venice, Shylock will have to surrender half his property to the state of Venice and the other half to Antonio, whose life he attempted to take. In addition to this, Shylock's own life will now lay at the mercy of the Duke, and no one can appeal on his behalf. To show Shylock the difference between the Jews and the Christians, the Duke grants Shylock his life and charges him a small fine after returning half of his property, which was to go to the state of Venice. Antonio too shows mercy by saying that he would not possess or own Shylock's property for himself, but would keep it in trust and hand it over to Lorenzo and Jessica after Shylock's death. Antonio had another condition to be fulfilled too by Shylock. He wanted Shylock to convert to Christianity. The Duke threatens Shylock to withdraw his mercy petition if Shylock did not adhere to Antonio's conditions. Shylock has no option but to give in. He meekly accepts the conditions and then requests to be excused from court, for he was not feeling too well. On his way out, Graciano passes a scathing remark that in converting to Christianity, Shylock would require 2 godfathers. But if he, Graciano, were the judge, he would make sure that Shylock had 10 more godfathers. That is, 2 plus 10 equal to 12 godfathers who would form the jury to lead him to the gallows instead of leading him to the fountain to be baptized and converted to Christianity. Impressed, the Duke requests the disguised Portia to join him for dinner. She politely turns him down by saying that she had to get back to Padua that night itself. He then turns to Antonio and tells him to reward the judge, that is Portia. Bassanio and Antonio thank the disguised Portia and insists that she take something in remembrance of them. She asks Antonio for his gloves and desires Bassanio's ring, which she had given him. But Bassanio draws back his hand, saying that the ring was very cheap to give to her, and moreover, his wife had told him never to take it off, give it to anyone, or lose it on any account. Portia tells Bassanio that he was making excuses as he did not want to part with it. Okay? The scene ends here. Then we go into a very short scene 2. All right? Where on further suggestion, Antonio requests Bassanio to give the ring to Portia. Okay? And then, of course, we are going to have some fun in Act 5 with regard to the ring. Okay? So with this, I come to the end of a very detailed summary for you. Is there any questions that anyone would like to ask before we go into the scene actually in detail?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, in the entire summary which we have discussed, like we have referred to Portia as she, but when we say of Portia in front of the Duke, when she was given the introduction to Antonio as well as the Shylock, then we also give the name to Portia as she, or we will refer to as he.
As Balthazar.
Yes, sir. As
Yeah.
he we will refer or she we will refer when Portia is in front of the Duke.
Correct. So when she's there in front of him, you must remember that Portia is actually replacing Dr. Bellario. Who is Dr. Bellario? Is he a lawyer or a judge? He's a doctor of law. A doctor of law is a judge. Okay. Now, if he's not available, then he has to be replaced by a judge only. He can't be replaced by a lawyer. Because if you replace him by a lawyer, then it will be an insult to him. Okay. Even a lawyer can replace a judge. Not possible. That is why when he says, take your place, we'll come across it. When the Duke tells her, take your place, it simply means take your place on the judge's bench, not on the lawyer's bench. Okay? Is that what you are asking me?
Okay, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask that Portia, who is a female, we will refer to her as she or we will refer to her as male because
Yeah,
she's
you will
disguised as
refer to
Belshazzar.
her as Portia only, but you will also mention disguised, DISGUISED. Okay? And Portia, who is disguised as a judge, and then carry on your answer.
Okay, sir.
Okay?
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
So, anybody else with any questions? Please don't feel shy, just go ahead and ask.
No.
Hello? Anyone?
No, sir. No.
All right, then shall I carry on with the lesson now?
Yes.
We are going into detail. Okay, now, when we do the lesson with you, okay, like your textbook, on the left hand side, there will be the text. Okay, and on the right hand side, in red, will be the meanings. Now, you must remember in your textbook, not all meanings are given. I have put up all the meanings possible of every word, every line. So even when you're doing self-study, you should have no problem in understanding. Okay. Of course, I will explain as I go along. And when you get the video, all right, you should have no problem in understanding it. So, Act 4, Scene 1, the court scene. Remember, there's an open court. The Duke walks in with fanfare and everything. He takes his place. And right away, he starts by asking for Antonio. Let's carry on. Right, class 10. I've written classes 10 because we have an A, B, C, D. All right. Please excuse me while I have a sip of water, please. Thank you. Act 4, Scene 1, William Shakespeare and for rough box. Right. This is the famous trial scene set in a Venetian court presided by the Duke. Shylock refuses to forego his claim of a pound of Antonio's flesh. He demands that I want it. Yeah. Portia, disguised as a doctor of law. A doctor of law is a judge. Please remember, not a lawyer, a judge. Portia, disguised as a doctor of law with Nerissa dressed as a clerk or assistant, comes to the court as in Bellario's place. Portia makes a speech in praise of mercy, but Shylock is unmoved. Okay, now this speech is a very famous speech on the quality of mercy. I will explain it to you in detail when we come across it. She then pronounces that Shylock is entitled to Antonio's pound of flesh, but exactly 1 pound, neither more nor less, and he's not entitled to shed a single drop of blood. Shylock is frustrated when Portia also declares that his own life and goods are now to be forfeited. Ultimately, Shylock is allowed to depart with half of his goods for his lifetime and the other half kept in trust with Antonio on condition that he becomes a Christian and bequeaths or bestows or writes off in a will all his possessions to Lorenzo and Jessica on his death. And Bassanio offers to reward the young lawyer. And when Bassanio offers to reward the young lawyer, Portia asks for his ring. Okay, the same ring which she made him promise never to take off, lose, or give anyone. Act 4, Scene 1. It's very important to know where the scene takes place. It takes place in a court of justice in Venice. Enter the Duke, the Magnificios, Antonio, Bassanio, Graciano, Salerio, and others. Okay, the Magnificios were those noblemen who held important portfolios of Venice. Okay, so in history you would have learned about portfolios. So they were all noblemen descended from the royal family, and each of them holding an important portfolio. These people were Magnificios. And then the Duke takes his seat. The first thing he inquires about is, what is Antonio here? Well, is Antonio here? And Antonio says, I'm ready. So please your grace. Okay, I'm ready if it pleases your grace. And the Duke at once is very sympathetic to Antonio. And he tells him, I'm sorry for thee. I feel very sorry for you. Thou art come to answer a stony adversary. You have come to defend yourself against a hard-hearted opponent. Okay, you may have to mute your mics, everyone over there. Right. Okay, thank you. So I'm sorry for you, Antonio, because you have come to answer or defend yourself against a stony adversary, against a hard-hearted opponent, an inhuman wretch, incapable of pity, void and empty from any dram of mercy. Okay, he's a cruel and villainous opponent, somebody who has no sympathy and who's completely lacking mercy. A dram would be like a single drop of water. Okay, Shylock does not have even a drop of mercy in him. That's why he feels sorry for him. And Antonio, appreciative of the Duke, says, I have heard your grace has taken great pains to qualify his rigorous course. Okay, I have heard that you, O Duke, have taken a lot of trouble trying to soften, qualify, soften Shylock's demand, harsh, severe demand for my pound of flesh. But since he stands obdurate and no lawful means can carry me out of his envy's reach, since Shylock is stubborn and adamant to take my pound of flesh, and since nobody can legally save me from his envious reach, from him harming me, I do oppose my patience to his fury. I shall meet his anger with patience, and am armed to suffer with a quietness of spirit the very tyranny and rage of his. Okay? Since he is very stubborn and determined to take my pound of flesh, and since nobody can save me from him legally, okay, I am ready. Okay. And with a lot of patience and quietness and calm, I kind of resign myself to my fate, whatever may be the case. I am ready to face his cruelty and oppression face on. And the Duke says, go one and call the Jew into the court. There are several officials sitting around. He just ushers any one of them and says, please go out and call Shylock into the court. And Salerio, who happens to be one of those officials, says, he's ready at the door. He comes, my lord. Okay. And Shylock enters. Shylock is ready at the door. And his appearance, his entry is also very terrifying, just like the case that he is demanding. He comes dressed in his gabardine. The gabardine is that long cloak which is sacred to the Jews when they are saying prayers. He comes with his orangish yellow cap, which was a sign of the Jews. He has a thick belt around his waist, his sash, and inside the sash, stuck in the sash or in the belt, he is carrying his bond and a dagger. And he also carries with him the weighing balance, okay, to weigh the pound of flesh. So he might have been quite a sight to watch in the court. And everybody would have been terrified at his sight. And he enters in this manner. And the Duke says, make room and let him stand before our face. All right. Somebody bring just a minute, please. Yeah. Make room and let him stand before our face. Everybody, please make some way and let Antonio stand before us. In front of us or before us. And then the Duke talks to Shylock and says, Shylock, the world thinks, and I think so too, that thou but leadest this fashion of thy malice to the last hour of thy act. Okay. Shylock, the world is of the opinion. That means everybody in the court is of the opinion. And I am also of the same opinion that you are just putting on this show of cruelty, of terror, right until the last stage of the case. And then it is thought that thou wilt show thy mercy and remorse more strange than is thy strange apparent cruelty. So you are just dragging this show of terror to the last stage of the case, and then people think, or they are of the opinion, that you will show pity and sympathy even more strangely than your false act of cruelty. So the Duke thinks that Shylock is pretending to be cruel. Okay, in reality, he is being cruel. He wants his pound of flesh. And the Duke continues talking and says to him, and where thou now exactest the penalty, and where you now demand the penalty, which is a pound of this guy's flesh, thou will show that thou will not only lose the forfeiture, but touched with human gentleness and love, forgive a moiety of the principal as well. Look at him. He says you will not only give up the demand for his pound of flesh, but being overcome with tenderness and love, you will also forgive a moiety, a small portion of the principal amount of 3,000 ducats. Glancing an eye of pity on his law, after glancing, after seeing with pity all the losses that have recently huddled or burdened on his back, which is enough. Now means enough to press even a royal merchant down. Very recently, Antonio has been going through some problems. His problems have burdened him to such an extent that it is enough even to crush a king among or a prince among merchants and pluck commiseration and gain sympathy of his state, of his condition, from brassy bosoms, from hard-hearted people and rough hearts of flints, again hard-hearted people. He will gain sympathy for his condition from stubborn Turks and Tatars. Stubborn Turks and Tatars were a very savage tribal lot of people who were never trained to offices of tender courtesy, who never knew what it was to be sympathetic and courteous and kind. We all expect a gentle answer, Jew. We all expect you to go easy on Antonio, Shylock. So you can see the Duke is very much in favor of Antonio being spared by Shylock. He's even trying to impress upon Shylock not just to give up the pound of flesh, but also give up a small portion of the principal amount of 3,000 ducats. After looking with pity and sympathy upon the problems that Antonio had to face recently, and which have burdened him to such an extent that it is enough to even crush a prince among merchants, and which was enough for Antonio to gain sympathy from hard-hearted people, from savage people like the Turks and the Tatars, who never knew what it was to be kind, compassionate, and forgiving. And he tells Shylock, we all expect you to go easy on Antonio. But Shylock is all out for revenge. He will not give up so easily. And in his answer to the Duke, he tells him, I have possessed your grace of what I purpose. I have already informed you, O Duke, of my intention. And by the holy Sabbath and by the sacred day of the Jews, have I sworn to have the due and forfeit of my bond. By the sacred day of the Jews, I have made a pledge or a promise to have my penalty, the pound of flesh. If you deny me, if you refuse to give me his pound of flesh, or refuse to give me justice, then let the danger light upon your charter. The danger of lawlessness. The charter here is the constitution. If you deny me justice, then your constitution will be in trouble. People will say the laws of Venice are useless. They are different for the locals and different for the foreigners. Let the danger light upon your charter and your city's freedom. How will it be dangerous to the freedom of the city? Yes, you must remember that Venice was actually a trading center. And the economy of Venice was at an all-time high, thanks to the foreigners who traded in Venice. Now, if the foreigners come to know that the law is not equal to them, then they will pack up their businesses and they'll go away. And the economy of Venice will fall flat and become zero. So, the country's constitution and its freedom will be in danger in that sense. Okay? He continues talking to the Duke and says, can you see the mouse pointer, all of you? Follow there. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, follow the mouse pointer. You'll ask me why I rather choose to have a weight of carrion flesh than receive 3,000 ducats. He's telling the Duke, you may ask me, why am I demanding for Antonio's pound of rotten flesh than my 3,000 ducats? I'll not answer that. Okay? The law doesn't require me to tell you why I want this pound of flesh. But I'll just say, it is my humor. I will just say, it is my whim and fancy. It is meri marzi. Is it answered? Does my answer satisfy you? And as if the answer did not satisfy the Duke, Shylock continues. He says, what if my house is troubled by a rat? What if my house is infested with a rat? One rat, single rat. And when he says with a rat, he looks at Antonio to ridicule him. What if my house is infested with a rat? Maybe like Antonio. And I be pleased to give 10,000 ducats to have it baned. And I am pleased to spend 10,000 ducats to have it poisoned. What? Are you answered yet? Does my answer satisfy you? Okay. Now to poison one rat, you don't have to spend 10,000 ducats. But Shylock is saying, look, the house is mine. Okay. The poison is mine. The money is also mine. If I want to spend 10,000 ducats or if I want to spend 1 ducat to poison the rat, it is my will. Nobody can question me on that. So if I want this pound of flesh instead of my 3,000 ducats, don't ask me. It's my wish. I want it. I don't have to give you an answer. But then as if the Duke did not understand, Shylock goes on to explain further. He says, some men there are that love not a gaping pig, and some who are mad if they behold a cat. And yet others, when the bagpipe sings in the nose, they cannot contain themselves, they cannot control themselves. There are some men in the world who don't like the sight of a gaping pig. Okay, now in those days, they had something called banquets. Banquets were like a feast. Boys and girls, can you hear me? Hello?
yes,
Yeah. Banquets were like a big feast and many people were invited to it. Every table had a very big platter in the center. A platter is a plate. And on that plate, there was this roasted head of a pig, half burnt, brown, black. The mouth was gaping open and inside was a red, rosy apple. Now imagine that placed in front of you when you're having dinner. To some people, it's an appetizer. But most of us, we would not like the sight of a pig in the middle of our dining table. That is what he's trying to tell the Duke. Some people don't like the sight of a pig. And if you ask them why, they don't have an answer to give you. I don't know, I just don't like it. There are some who don't like the sight of a cat. If a cat crosses their path, the superstition, oh, bad luck will befall you. But yet, if you ask these people, so what if the cat crossed your path? What harm will that be to you? They don't have an answer. There are some people who don't like the sound of a bagpipe because it's got such a shrill note. It pierces your ears and they want to kill the guy who's playing the bagpipe. If you ask him also, what is wrong with the bagpipe? He'll give you no answer. And then Shylock tells him, you know why he gives no answer? For affection. Because affection or personal taste, which is the mistress of passion, which controls our feelings, sways it to the mood of what it likes and what it loathes, what it hates. Okay? Personal taste, look at the meaning on the right-hand side, is not always determined by reason or by logic alone, but it is controlled or determined by a very strong desire or mood which overpowers reason. That is why some people don't have answers to certain questions. And that is why I don't have an answer to give you as to why I want this guy's pound of flesh. He says, now for your answer. Now to answer you, Duke, to tell you why I want a pound of his flesh. I'm telling you. Follow the mouse pointer. As there is no firm reason to be rendered, to be given, as to why he cannot abide a gaping pig, as to why somebody cannot tolerate the sight of a gaping pig, why he, a harmless, necessary cat, why a person cannot tolerate a harmless cat, and why he, a woolen bagpipe, and why certain people cannot tolerate the bagpipe, but of force must yield to such inevitable shame as to offend others when he himself is offended. Yes, many a time that happens. Sometimes you are offended, and in your desire, where you cannot control yourself, you say certain things which offend certain people around you. To explain to you what I mean, we'll just take an example of you inviting me to dinner. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You are all invited me to dinner. Okay? Mr. Hilbert is coming to dinner. Chalo. Now, I see a certain dish on the table which I don't eat. My immediate reaction would be, if I don't control myself, Chi, what is this? Now, when I say Chi, what is this? It's very obvious I'm offended by something. But in the process of me being offended, I have now offended you because you have invited me to dinner. You have taken the trouble of preparing the meal. You have spent the money in preparing the meal. You have wasted the time preparing the meal. And here I am saying Chi. So in the process of being offended, we sometimes offend others. Let's come back to this part where the mouse pointer is. Okay? But of force must yield to such inevitable shame as to offend others, himself being offended, when he himself is offended. A person stoops low to offend others when he himself is offended. People don't know why they can't tolerate a pig, why they can't tolerate a cat, why they can't tolerate a bagpipe. And by being offended, they are offending others around. So, in much the same way, I give no reason. I can give you no reason why I want this pound of flesh. No, I will not. Neither will I make an attempt to also give you any reason as to why I want this pound of flesh, because the court doesn't require me to give you any reason. More than a large hate and a certain loathing, I bear Antonio. All I can tell you is that I have this hatred, and again, a certain hatred towards Antonio, that I follow thus a losing suit for which I don't mind even losing all the money against him. But I will demand for his pound of flesh. It doesn't matter if my money is gone. 3,000 ducats gaya to jane do. My hatred for him is such. I would rather lose the money, but I will not lose his pound of flesh. I will take it. Are you answered? Does my answer convince you now? Okay. So you can see Shylock has taken a very hard stance against Antonio. He is not going to forgive him. He is going to cut his pound of flesh. And the people in the court would have really been, taken up by his decision. Any questions so far on these slides that we finished? Anyone?
No, sir. Very clear.
So I think it's quite simple. Let's carry on. Bassanio interrupts now and he says, but this is no answer. The unfeeling man, you emotionless man, you hard-hearted fellow, you heartless fellow. This is no reason to give that you want his pound of flesh. ऐसा कोई बोलता है क्या? This is no answer, thou unfeeling man, to excuse the current of thy cruelty, to carry out your merciless course. And Shylock looks at him and says, look, I am not bound to please you with my answers. I don't have to convince you. I don't even know who you are. And Bassanio tries to reason further. He said, do all men kill the things they do not love? Do people want to kill something that they don't like? And Shylock says, hates any man the thing that he would not kill? Is there any man in the world who would not like to kill that thing or that person that he hates? Of course, he may not kill, that's a different thing. But the feeling will be there, how I wish I can kill him. And Bassanio tries to justify further by saying, but every offense is not a hate at first. Okay? Every time somebody offends you, it doesn't become such a hatred where you want to kill the person. And Shylock says, what? Wouldst thou have a serpent sting thee twice? Huh? Will you give your enemy a second chance to have an attempt on your life before you kill him? The serpent here is the enemy. But even if you take it in the literal sense, if a snake bites you for the first time, you are not going to tell the snake, acha theek hai, now one chance is over. Second time, if you bite, I'll kill you. You will not do that. As a matter of fact, before the snake can bite you, only you might kill him. So Shylock's argument is quite logical. And Antonio, who's listening to the entire conversation, is a little concerned. He's a lot worried because his pound of flesh is at stake. He tells Bassanio, I pray you, I request you, Bassanio, think you argue with it. Don't forget you're arguing with Shylock. You may as well go stand upon the beach and bid the flood bait his usual height. You may as well use question with the wolf, why he made the ewe bleat for the lamb. You may as well forbid the mountain pines to wag their high tops and to make no noise when they are threatened or disturbed by the gusts of wind coming from heaven. You may do the hardest thing in the world. You may do anything most hard and succeed. I seek to soften that than which what's harder. His Jewish heart. When Antonio hears the argument between them, he tells Bassanio, don't forget who you're arguing with. You're arguing with Shylock. You cannot argue with him. You might as well stand on the beach and bid the main flood, bid the high waves to bait, to reduce their usual height. They will listen. The waves will listen to you and they'll reduce the height. You may as well question with the wolf why he made the ewe bleat for the lamb. The ewe over here is the mother sheep. Lamb, of course, is the baby sheep. So wolves love to eat baby sheep or lambs. He says you might as well ask the wolf why he made the mother sheep cry or bleat by eating up her baby. The wolf will give you an answer. You may as well forbid the mountain pines to wag their high tops and make no noise. You might as well go stand on the mountains and tell the pine trees, Don't make a noise when the wind blows through you and disturbs you. You can wave your high tops, but don't make a noise. The pine trees will listen to you. And he says, you may as well do anything more. You can do the hardest thing in the world and succeed. But you can't do that what is harder. And what is that? Soften his hard heart. You cannot soften or persuade Shylock to drop the case. He doesn't have a heart to do that. Therefore, I do beseech you. Therefore, I am requesting you, make no further offers. I don't want you to appeal on my behalf to Shylock anymore. Use no further means. Stop all appeals, but with brief and plain conveniency. But as quickly as you can, as soon as possible, let me have judgment. Please pass an order against me and let the Jew have his will and grant Shylock his desire of having my pound of flesh. So you can see Antonio is also frustrated. Rather than dying every moment, he would like to die once and for all, than be afraid of death every second moment. Okay?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, please move to the previous slide.
Yeah.
Sir, in this, sir, please explain again the line, as seek to soften that, then which works harder, his Jewish heart.
Correct. So let's come up to the line before that. Here, where the mouse pointer is. Can you see the mouse pointer?
Yes, sir.
You may as well do anything most hard. You can do the hardest thing in the world and succeed. But you can't do that what is harder. And what is harder? Soften that what is harder. And what is harder? His Jewish heart. He's got such a hard heart. You cannot soften that. You can attempt the hardest thing in the world and succeed by softening that. Okay? Can you talk to the waves and tell them, reduce your height? No. Can you talk to the wolf and ask him why he made the mother sheep cry for the baby? No. Can you tell the pine trees on the mountain, hey, you can wave your high tops, but don't make a noise. Will they listen? No. It's very difficult. But you will succeed in those difficult things. But in trying to soften Shylock's heart, you will never succeed. Impossible. So just leave me to my fate. Let him have his desire. He wants my pound of flesh. Let him take it. Pass judgment against me. This is his frustration talking. Okay? Is that understood now?
Okay, sir. So, sir, in this line, as seek to soften that, so, sir, that refers to Jewish heart.
Yeah. As here we are. Yeah. As seek to soften that, than which works harder. Actually, the word than and which is confusing you. As seek to soften that which is harder. So you can succeed in all these things, but you can't succeed in this one thing, softening his Jewish heart. Not possible.
Okay, sir.
I've given meanings to you at the side. Okay? Go through it. It'll become easy for you. Shall I move on?
Yes, sir.
And Bassanio intervenes again and says, for thy 3,000 ducats, here is 6. For the 3,000 ducats that you gave me, I'm giving you double 6,000. And Shylock says, if every ducat and 6,000 ducats were divided in 6 parts, and every part were a ducat, I would not draw. I would not accept it. I would still have my bond. I would still demand for my bond. I would still demand for the terms and conditions in my bond to be fulfilled. And what are the terms and conditions in the bond to be fulfilled? Antonio's pound of flesh to be cut from any part of his body that Shylock deems fit. So can you imagine? He is ready to give up his money, not just 3,000 ducats, but 36,000 ducats. Just to give you an idea of how much is 3,000 ducats. In 3,000 ducats, Bassanio had bought a ship and filled it with merchandise. He had a whole fleet of servants and he had a whole lot of gifts for Portia, the servants, and everybody in the family. So much money it was. Now, can you imagine? He's ready to forfeit 36,000, even if it's offered to him. So I'll tell you how revengeful he is. And when he says this, that I will not accept, even if you divide every ducat in those 6,000 ducats into 6 parts, and every part is a ducat, I will still not accept. And the Duke and everybody in the court is stunned. And the Duke says, Shylock, how shall thy hope for mercy rendering none? How can you possibly expect God to show mercy on you when you yourself show no mercy on others? And Shylock says, what judgment shall I dread? Why should I fear anything when I have done nothing wrong? What judgment shall I dread doing no wrong? Why should I be afraid of God not being merciful towards me when I have done nothing wrong? Now he directs his statement to all the Christians in the court. He says, you Christians, you have among you many a purchased slave. You Christians have with you slaves which you have bought with your money, and which, like your asses and your donkeys and mules, you use in abject and slavish parts. You have these slaves whom you use in inhuman conditions, in very degrading ways. And why do you use them in inhuman conditions and degrading ways? Because you bought them, you spent money for them. Shall I say to you, what if I told you? Shall I say to you, what if I told you, marry them to your heirs? Get your slaves married to your sons and daughters. Why sweat they under burdens? Why do you make them slog and work so hard? Don't do that. Let their beds be soft as yours. Give them soft beds to sleep in, just like you sleep in soft beds. And let their palates be seasoned with such wines, and give them good, tasty, nourishing food which you eat. You will answer. What will you say to me if I told you to do all these things? You will say, the slaves are ours. We have bought the slaves. They are ours. We'll do whatever we want with them. So do I answer you. In much the same way, I am telling you guys, the pound of flesh which I demand of him, the pound of flesh which I'm asking from Antonio, is dearly bought. I paid a very high price for it. It is mine. It is mine. And I will have it. And I demand it. If you deny me, then fire upon your laws. If you deny me justice, shame. Fire means shame upon your laws. There is no force in the decrees of, there is no power in the laws of Venice. He is mocking and ridiculing the people of Venice. I stand for judgment. Answer me. Tell me. Shall I have it? Are you going to give me judgment? I want this pound of flesh. Are you going to give it to me? Yes or no? And everybody in the court is stunned. And the Duke answers, upon my powers, I may dismiss this court. Look, as a Duke, I have with me powers to adjourn this court, call off the case, scrap it, destroy it completely, unless Bellario, a learned doctor, unless Bellario, a very wise judge of law, whom I have sent for to determine this, whom I have sent for to decide this case, comes here today. And Salerio says, my lord, here stays without. My lord, waiting outside, without means outside. Here, waiting outside, is a messenger with letters from the doctor, is a messenger who's come with letters from Dr. Bellario, okay? New come from Padua, who has just arrived from Padua. So when the Duke says, as Duke of Venice, I can throw the case out, scrap it, destroy it altogether, unless Bellario, whom I have sent for, comes to determine or to decide this case. And Salerio says, waiting outside is a messenger from Dr. Bellario, and he's got letters, probably a letter to the Duke. And he's just come from Padua. Remember, Bellario is from Padua. And the Duke is happy to know that and says, bring us the letter. Bring the note. Call the messenger in. Okay, any idea who the messenger is?
Lady, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
There is a dressed up like a clerk. Very good. So bring us the letter. Call the messenger. And Bassanio, when he hears that there are letters come from Dr. Bellario, he is very confident that Dr. Bellario will do something. That's why he encourages Antonio and says, good cheer, Antonio. Okay? Come on, Antonio. Cheer up. What man? Courage yet. Come on. Pluck up courage. The Jew shall have my flesh, my blood, my bones and all. Ere thou shalt lose for me even one drop of blood. Cheer up, Antonio. Dr. Bellario is here. Shylock can have my blood, my bones and everything before. Air means before. He sheds even one drop of blood of yours. But Antonio is already very depressed. And he tells him, I am a tainted wether of the flock. Okay, a wether was the leader of the flock. Usually the oldest goat in the flock of goats. Okay, or the oldest sheep in the flock of sheep used to be the leader. And that old goat or sheep had a bell around its neck. So it was called a bellwether, the leader with the bell. And wherever the leader went, the bell made a sound and all the other sheep followed it. So he became the bellwether or the leader of the flock. But Antonio is so depressed, he's saying, look, I am a tainted wether of the flock. I am a sick leader of a flock of sheep. Meat is for death. Okay? I am only fit to be slaughtered. The weakest kind of fruit drops earliest to the ground. He further compares himself to an overripe fruit. Okay, if a fruit turns overripe on the tree, it falls down without anyone plucking it. And once it falls down, it splatters and mixes with the mud and nobody can eat it. So it becomes worthless. So he compares himself to that overripe fruit which falls to the ground and becomes worthless. He says, I am a sick leader of the flock, fit to be slaughtered. I am that fruit which falls earliest to the ground and becomes worthless. So let me be. So leave me to my fate. You cannot be better employed, Bassanio. I would like you, Bassanio, to continue to live on and write mine epitaph and write the wordings on my tombstone. Okay, I don't know if you have ever been to a Christian graveyard, okay, or a Muslim graveyard. When a person is buried, they have a tombstone, and on the tombstone, the name of the person, the year he was born, the year he died, and who all have survived after him. Some details about the person is given. So Antonio wants Bassanio to live and write his epitaph or the words on his tombstone. So bring me the letters, bring the messenger in, and Nerissa enters dressed as a lawyer's clerk. Why do you think she's disguised? Can anyone tell me? Hello? Can anyone tell me why she's disguised as a man? Is there anybody there? Hello?
So that her identity was not revealed to her husbands as
So
in.
what if she came as Nerissa? So what?
So because she was the messenger of Dr. Bellario.
So what? Why should she dress up like a guy? Why can't she come in as a girl or a woman?
Sir, maybe the women were restricted to come in.
Exactly. Women were restricted from participating in any public events. They could not even hold any top official posts anywhere. They were confined to the four walls of the house. Their job was only to take care of the house and to bring up the children in the Christian faith. So, medieval England also experienced the Parda system. Medieval England also had the dowry system. And yet these rascals, when they came to India, they tried to abolish dowry, okay, from our society. They had to first clean their own backyard and then try to clean up ours, okay? So women were not allowed. And if they were caught, then it could also mean death for them. So nobody even took the risk. But this is just a story, so it's absolutely fine. Nerissa enters dressed up like a lawyer's clerk. And the Duke is very happy to see him. Actually, it's her dressed up like a guy. So if they ask you a question, okay, who is the clerk? You will have to write Nerissa in the disguise of a man. All right. And the Duke inquires, came you from Padua? Have you come from Padua, from Bellario? And Nerissa says, yes, I've come from both, my lord. I've come from Padua, I've come from Bellario, who lives in Padua, and Bellario greets you. And she gives him the note to be given to the Duke. And while the Duke is reading the note, in one corner of the court, we see Shylock, or Shylock is seen sharpening his knife. And Bassanio is freaked out when he sees him sharpening his knife. And he even inquires with him, why dost thou whet thy knife so earnestly? Huh? Why are you sharpening your knife so keenly? And Shylock says, to cut the forfeiture from that bankrupt there, to cut the penalty, which is a pound of that bankrupt Antonio who is standing there. Okay? So you can see the hatred that Shylock has towards Antonio. Excuse me, please. And then Graciano also interferes. And he actually He actually abuses Shylock. Not only Shylock, but even his mother, in the foulest of words that anybody can use. When Graciano sees Shylock sharpening his knife on the sole of his shoe, he tells him, not on the sole. You are not sharpening your knife on the sole of your shoe, but on your soul, but on your hard heart. Harsh Jew, thou makest thy knife so keen. But no metal can. No, not even the hangman's axe can bear half the keenness, can bear half the sharpness of your sharp envy, of your envious malice. Can no prayers pierce thee? Can no amount of pleading pierce your hard heart? And Shylock mockingly says, no, none that thou hast wit enough to make. No amount of pleading. And definitely you are not clever enough to make any such pleas to me. Okay? Look at the meanings properly, and the text will become easy for you. None that you are clever enough to make. And now Graciano comes out with the foulest of words possible. Oh, be thou damned, inexcredible dog, or inexorable dog, or murderous dog. May you be damned. May you go to hell, you murderous dog. And for thy life, let justice be accused. And for the fact that you are living and roaming around in this world, we should blame the law. Thou makest me waver in my faith. Okay? You make me unsteady. You make me doubt my own Christian faith, my own Christian religion. To hold opinion with Pythagoras. You make me want to agree with what Pythagoras said. And what did Pythagoras say? The souls of animals infuse themselves into the trunks of men. The souls of animals occupy the trunks or bodies of men. Thy courage spirit governed a wolf. Courage means dog-like. Your dog-like spirit governed a wolf, was occupied by a wolf. You know what a wolf is? It's a canine. It's a wild dog which lives in the jungle. So your dog-like spirit was occupied by a wolf. Yes, who hanged for human slaughter, who was to be hanged for slaughtering humans. Even from the gallows did his fell soul fleet. And at the time of hanging him from the gallows, his fell soul, his evil soul escaped from him. And whilst thou layest in thy unhallowed dam, and while you were in the womb of your unholy mother, dam means mother, and while you were in the womb of your unholy mother, it infused itself into thee. It entered into you through your mother. How bad can you get? And how has he come to this conclusion? Because, he says, the word for means because thy desires are wolfish, bloody, starved, and ravenous. Okay? Your desires, your impulses are very dog-like, bloody, starved, and ravenous, cruel, and savage, and wolfish. Okay? I don't know if you have heard about werewolves. Have any of you heard about werewolves?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Humans like
Yeah.
behaving like
What were
wolves.
they?
So like on a moony day, like humans become turn into wolves.
Yes, exactly. So, Poonam ki Raat, on full moon nights, we had certain humans who had evil spirits in them, and they would turn into werewolves. Werewolves were murderous, evil dogs, and they went about in the night killing people. And at daybreak, they would again turn into human beings. So one such wolf was caught before he could turn into a human being. Because once they turn into human beings, you cannot catch them, no? Then you don't know. He can deny, no, I was not a wolf. But this wolf was caught in the act, according to Graciano. And people caught it. Next day, when it turned into a human, they decided to hang it. But before it could hang and be killed, his evil spirit came out from his body. That means he died before he could be hanged. And it entered into Shylock, who was expected in his mother's womb. That means his mother would have been expecting him. So his evil spirit entered through the mother and then into Shylock. And when Shylock was born, he was born this evil man that he is today. Now that is a horrible thing to say. Do you agree with me? Yes? No?
So is Graciano telling that Shylock is a werewolf or he has a evil soul of a werewolf?
He has the soul of a wolf. Because Pythagoras himself said that when a person dies, his spirit leaves him. And when a person is born, then this spirit, which is roaming around the universe, enters into this body because it's a new body. Okay, now that is the belief of most religions. When your spirit escapes, it moves around in the universe looking for a new body. And when a new child is born, the spirit enters into that child. But according to Pythagoras, it is not only human spirits that enter into human bodies. Even the spirit of an animal can enter into a human body. And he says, Shylock, your spirit is wolfish, dog-like, cruel, savage. He even abuses his mother by calling her unhallowed. Unhallowed means unholy. A horrible thing to say. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Any
Thank you.
questions? Hello?
No, sir. No questions.
I'm going to carry on teaching you. Okay? Bear up with me. It's a very long scene. I will not be able to finish it. But by next Sunday, I have been given an extra chance. So I will finish it by next Sunday. But I'm going to continue teaching you. So please bear with me. If there's any questions you need to ask, please ask me. I will be very happy to answer you. Okay? The others on board, is the story or the scene becoming clear to you now? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So when Graciano talks in this manner, shouting at the top of his voice, cursing and abusing Shylock in a very cool and calm manner tells him, till thou canst rail the seal from off my bond, thou but offendest thy lungs to speak so loud. He tells Graciano, by you speaking so loudly and using abusive words and other curse words, you cannot erase the seal from my bond. The seal is what makes the bond legal. So Graciano, why are you shouting? You can shout as much as you want, but you cannot erase the seal from my bond. Until then, you are offending your lungs. You are causing harm to your lungs by speaking so loudly. Repair to thy wit. Come back to your senses, good youth. Come back to your senses, young man, or it will fall to cureless ruins, or you will harm yourself beyond all cure. Now, all this is happening in the court while the Duke is reading Bellario's letter. Can you believe it? Graciano is cursing and abusing, and nobody's telling him anything in the court. And all in the presence of the Duke. If it had to happen today, the judge would have sounded his mallet and shouted, order, 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 order.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but over there, nothing happens. So, thankfully, the Duke has finished reading the letter, and he says, this letter from Bellario doth commend a young and learned doctor to our court. This letter from Bellario recommends a young and learned doctor to replace himself in our court. Where is he? And Nerissa, who's standing by, says, he attendeth here hard by, sir. He is standing close by, sir, just outside the door to know your answer. To know your answer, whether you will admit him or not. To know whether you will allow him to take Bellario's place or not. And the Duke says, with all my heart, of course I will allow him. Come on, some 3 or 4 of you officials. Go, give him courteous conduct to this place. Go and very politely and courteously bring him or conduct him or bring him into this court. In the meantime, the court shall hear Bellario's letter. In the meantime, I would like everybody in the court to hear what Bellario has written. And the clerk reads. This is Bellario's letter. Pay careful attention to it. They ask you quite a few questions from here. Remember, it's Bellario's writing. And he says, your grace shall understand that at the receipt of your letter, I am very sick. Dear Duke, I want you to understand that when I received your letter, I was very sick. But in the instant that your messenger came, but the moment your messenger came with a message from you, calling me to Venice to preside over this case, at that time, in loving visitation was with me a young doctor of law from Rome. The moment your letter came to call me, on a friendly visit to me was a young doctor of law from Rome. His name is Balthazar. I am acquainted with the cause in controversy. No, I acquainted him with the cause in controversy between the Jew and Antonio the merchant. I have already made this young doctor of law from Rome. I have already made him aware of what the case between Antonio and Shylock is all about. The dispute between the two of them. His name is Balthazar.
So like, doctor of Rome means a lawyer from Rome, right?
A judge from Rome, not a lawyer, son. A doctor of law has to be a judge. He cannot be a lawyer.
Got it.
Yeah. Actually, the truth is, Shylock, Shakespeare has goofed up in several places. In some places, he calls him a lawyer. In some places, but you cannot replace a judge with a lawyer, can you? Hello?
Yes.
No, sir.
You cannot. It'll be an insult to the judge.
Yeah.
Yeah. How can you? Not possible. So, I'm acquainted with him. I know him very well. And I acquainted him with the cause in controversy. And I've already made him aware of the dispute between the Jew and Antonio the merchant. We've turned over many books together. We've gone through many law books together. He is furnished with my opinion. Okay. I have already given him my review of the matter. He's furnished with my opinion, which, bettered with his own learning, the greatness whereof I cannot enough commend. I have already given him my view of what I think of the case. And this young judge has even bettered my view with his own knowledge and bettered it to such an extent that I don't have words to express. And this comes with him at my importunity. Okay? This knowledgeable young man will come to you with my importunity, with my earnest recommendation to you to fill up your grace's request in my stead. He will come at your request to replace me. I beseech you, I request you, O Duke, let his lack of years be no impediment to let him lack a reverend estimation. Okay? Please, I am requesting you, don't let his youthful looks be a hindrance or obstruction to let him earn your respect. Don't underestimate him because he looks so young. For I never knew so young a body with so old a head. I have never seen such a young judge with so much wisdom. I leave him to your gracious acceptance. I leave him to you to accept or not, and whose trial shall better publish his commendation. Let him judge the case, and I assure you, his skills in deciding the matter will earn him your respect. You yourself will be in awe and admiration for this young man. Allow him to take my place. And the Duke finishes reading the letter. The clerk finishes reading the letter. Now the Duke turns to the court and tells everyone, you hear what the learned Bellario said? You all heard what Bellario had to write in his letter? And just at that time, Portia walks in, disguised as a judge. And when the Duke sees her, he says, and here I take it, is the doctor come. And this, according to me, is the judge who has just arrived. And Portia enters dressed as a doctor of law, not doctor of laws, but as a doctor of law. At once the Duke extends his hand and says, give me your hand. The Duke wants to shake hands with her. He greets her. Come you from old Bellario? Have you come from the wise Bellario? Have you come or been recommended by the wise Bellario? And Portia says, I did, my lord. Yes, I have come under the recommendation of Bellario. And the Duke says, you are welcome. Take your place. This is a very controversial line. Take your place. Can you see the mouse pointer, everyone?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Please read what's at the side. When he says, take your place, where is he telling her to take her place? Remember, Portia is to take a place on the judge's bench, not lawyer's bench. Judge's bench, because Portia has come as a replacement for Bellario, who's a judge. She's replacing a judge. So she's a judge. She cannot be a lawyer. Can anyone tell me why she can't be a lawyer? Forget about replacing a lawyer. Can anyone tell me why she can't be a lawyer?
So it would be disrespectful.
No, leaving that aside. Why can't she be a lawyer?
Sir, because judging a case is the occupation, like it is the responsibility of a judge, not of a lawyer.
Exactly. There are no lawyers fighting against each other. It is just a one bench judge. She will hear both the parties and then she will form a decision based on that. She's here to decide the case, not fight the case. She's not fighting on anyone's behalf. She's very neutral. And believe me, she's very fair, even to Shylock, who's a rascal, according to them. That's why she can't be a lawyer. Because if she's a lawyer, then whose side is she fighting on? Antonio's or Shylock's? She's not fighting for anyone. She's only going to decide. That's the job of a judge. And if she's a lawyer, then where's the other lawyer? Who is she fighting against? Is that understood? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, take your place. Are you acquainted with the difference that holds this present question in the court? Are you aware of the nature of the case that faces this court? And Portia says, I am informed thoroughly of the cause. I am well acquainted with the matter at hand. So, which one is the merchant and which one is the Jew? Who is Shylock and who is Antonio? Okay, it's very weird for her to ask who is the merchant, because by that dressing only she should have been able to gauge. But doesn't matter. So, who is Shylock here and who's Antonio here? And the Duke tells them both, Antonio and old Shylock, stand forth, step forward. And Portia looks at Shylock and says, is your name Shylock? He says, Shylock is my name. And Portia tells him, of a very strange nature is the suit you follow. Okay? Your demand from this court is a very weird one. But although it is weird, yet in such a rule that the Venetian law cannot impugn you as you do proceed. Although your demand is a very weird demand. Nobody asks for a pound of flesh to be cut in court in front of everybody. It's a very weird demand you make. But although it's weird, this Venetian court does not impugn, cannot find anything wrong with your demand at the moment. Then she turns to Antonio and she mentions the last line to him. You stand within his danger, do you not? Huh? You, Antonio, you stand in danger from him? And Antonio says, aye. So he says, yes, that is what he says. And then Portia questions him again. Do you confess the bond, Antonio? Do you agree to having signed this bond? Do you agree to being aware of all the conditions in the bond? And although you are aware, you yet signed it? And Antonio says, I do. Yes, I accept. And Portia, in all fairness, says, then must the Jew be merciful. Then the only thing that can save you, Antonio, is Shylock himself. He'll have to be merciful towards you. Nothing else can save you from him. But Shylock is so steeped in revenge. He at once shoots out a question, says, on what compulsion? Why? On what grounds should I be merciful to him? This is the guy who humiliated me at the Rialto, who embarrassed me at the Rialto in front of everybody, who spat on me, spat on my beard, spat on my gabardine. He kicked me like people would kick a stray dog from out of his threshold. He's the one who has embarrassed and humiliated me all along. And I have to show mercy to him. On what grounds? Why? And then Portia comes out with her speech on the quality of mercy. Okay? Before I take up the quality of mercy, is there anybody here who would like to ask me anything? I'm just stopping share for now. I want to see you face to face. Okay? Yeah, there you are. I can see Astha, I can see Abhiram, I can see Hema, Jashandeep, Vaishnavi. We didn't get a chance to say hello to you. Yeah, tell me. Do you have any questions, any of you?
So,
No. I'll continue. Okay, I'll continue for some more time if it's okay with you. Hello?
yeah, yes, sir.
sir.
8:15, 8:15 will do.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
I'll
sir.
finish the quality of mercy and then we'll stop, okay?
Yes, sir.
So, actually we started late also. So I missed out a good 15 to 20 minutes in the beginning. So let me add it on at the back at least. If there's no questions, I would like to continue. If you have any questions, go ahead and shoot forward.
Excuse
Anybody?
me, sir. Sir, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, Grashanyo says, not on your soul you are sharpening your knife. So, sir, why is he saying like that? I am not able to get that.
Yeah, there's a pun. This is what we call a pun. Not on your soul, S-O-L-E. See, in those days, even today, whenever you sharpen a knife, people sharpen it on leather. You know, they'll take a piece of leather and they'll sharpen the razor or the knife like that. Okay? Till recent times, whenever you went for a shave, the barber always sharpened the razor on leather. But then because of AIDS and people getting cut and sample of their blood going into the skin of another person, for hygienic purposes, they stopped using razors. They started using blades. So now the razor is useless, so the leather was also thrown out. But your shoe is often made of leather. That's why Shylock was sharpening the knife on the leather sole of his shoe. But Graciano was telling him, you're not sharpening the knife on the leather sole of your shoe. You are actually sharpening it on the sole of your body, your hard heart. That is the comparison made. S-O-L-E is sole of the shoe. S-O-U-L is your soul, your heart, which keeps you alive. Okay?
So, sir, here also he's referring that your soul is also as hard because of your curious nature.
You need a hard substance to sharpen the knife on. Okay? So leather is a hard substance. Have you seen a grinding stone, chakudhar wala? How he sharpens the knife? Have you ever seen?
Sir, not sir.
Sometimes with his leg, it goes very rapidly and he sharpens the knife on that grinding stone.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sparkles come out.
Sparks come out. That is how
Yeah.
hard the surface on which you sharpen the knife is.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now,
sir.
Graciano was telling him that his heart is hard like that. So that's not a good word to say to anyone.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. On what compulsion must I? Tell me that. Why should I even be merciful to him? Please tell me. And then she comes out with her speech on the quality of mercy. And she tells him, Shylock, the quality of mercy is not strained. mercy has such a quality, or mercy is of such a quality, it cannot be strained, it cannot be forced out of anyone. You cannot force anyone to be merciful. It must come from you, from your heart. It droppeth as a gentle rain upon, it droppeth as a gentle rain from heaven upon the earth beneath. Mercy is like rain which falls from heaven on this hot and parched earth. When rain falls on the hot and parched earth, what happens to the earth? It gets relief. So if you shower mercy on somebody, you are bringing relief to that person. It has to come from the heart. The quality of mercy is such that it cannot be forced out of you. It droppeth as a gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It drops like the blessed rain upon the hot earth, and it brings relief to the earth. Yes, it is twice blessed. Mercy is blessed on 2 occasions. How? It blesses him that gives, it blesses that person who shows mercy, and him that takes, and also blesses that person who receives mercy. That's why it is twice blessed. It blesses the shower of mercy and the receiver of mercy. It is mightiest in the mightiest. Mercy is a powerful weapon in the hands of powerful people. How can mercy be a weapon? Yes, it becomes the throned monarch better than the crown. It becomes the throned monarch better than the crown. Mercy is of a better quality than the king's crown. Mercy is of a nobler quality in the king than his crown. His scepter shows the force of temporal power. The scepter is a little baton. That little danda, you might have seen, the king raises. Have you ever seen? It's a little baton or a little wand or a stick. That's called a scepter. So the scepter shows the force of temporal power. The scepter is nothing but a symbol of the king's power on earth, because you can physically see it. Yes, that scepter is the attribute to awe and majesty. When you see a king, when you see the crown of the king, when you see the scepter of the king, you look up to the king in awe and majesty, in great admiration for the king. Not only in admiration, but also in dread. Can you see the mouse pointer? You also look at him in dread and fear. That is why when the king passes you, you don't look at him. You bow down. You cannot stare the king in his eyes. He might have you beheaded. So the crown and the scepter are symbols of the king's power on earth. That's why when you see the crown and the scepter, you look up to the king in awe and admiration and also in fear. But mercy is above the sceptered sway. Yes, mercy is above this fear that you have for kings. Okay? Mercy is beyond this world which is ruled by kings and scepters. You cannot force it out of people. It must come from your heart. The king's symbols of power are his crown and his scepter. You cannot see in his heart. Not possible. Only when he exhibits or displays mercy, then you can sense it. or feel it. Yes, it is enthroned in the hearts of kings. Mercy cannot be seen because it is embedded deep in the hearts of kings. It is an attribute to God himself. Mercy is a quality that belongs to God himself. Exactly. Mercy is a quality of God. An earthly power that then shows like his gods when mercy seasons justice. And earthly powers, that means kings. Kings come very close to being like God when they show mercy to the subjects, because it is a quality of God himself. That is why people bow down to kings as if they are gods. Therefore, Jew. Therefore, Shylock, though justice be thy plea, though you demand for justice, just consider this. Just listen to what I have to say, or think over what I have to say. In the process or in the course of justice, in the process of giving you justice, none of us shall see salvation. What do you mean by salvation? In an attempt to give you justice, none of us will receive salvation. None of us shall be free from the sinful world. Okay? Salvation is like moksha. You know what moksha is? Hello? Any Jains?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay? So salvation is like moksha. Freedom from the cycle of death and birth. Freedom from sin. Salvation is like nirvana. You heard of nirvana?
Yes, sir.
Buddhists practice
Yes.
nirvana. And why will none of us be saved from sin? If we give Shylock justice, can anyone tell me why? What will happen if they give Shylock justice? What will Shylock do?
Sir, he will
So they will be murderers.
come into his body.
He will cut his pound of flesh. And in his present state of mind, in the process of cutting, he may even pierce Antonio's heart and kill him. And when Antonio dies, it is not Shylock alone who will be a murderer. It will be everybody in the court. The judge, the duke, and all of us sitting, because we are all witness to the murder and none of us has even stopped it. That's why she says, see the mouse pointer. Therefore, Jew, though justice be thy plea, consider this. Just think of what I'm saying. In the course of giving you justice, in the process of allowing you to cut his pound of flesh, he might die. Then none of us will see salvation and we will all become sinners. We do pray for mercy. And that same prayer that teaches us to render the deeds of mercy. Now, I don't know if in your schools you say the Lord's Prayer. Have you ever heard Christians praying, Our Father, who art in heaven,
Yes.
hallowed be thy name. Have you ever heard this prayer?
Yes, sir.
You have. Usually for assemblies, they have it. Now, in that prayer, the Christians pray, forgive us our trespasses. That means forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who trespass against us, as we forgive those who sin against us. That's why she says over here. Okay? The same prayer which we all pray also teaches us to render the deeds of mercy, to show mercy on others. So Shylock, in your prayer, you also must be asking for mercy, and you also must be telling God, I show mercy to others. Anyway, she says, I have spoke thus much to mitigate the justice of thy plea. I have spoken so much now to make less your demand for his pound of flesh. To mitigate, to make less. I should have given you the meaning somewhere. Here it is. To make less your demand for justice, which if we follow, which if we give you your justice, then this strict court of Venice must needs give sentence against that merchant there. Shylock, if we have to give you justice, then we will have to allow you to cut his pound of flesh, Antonio's pound of flesh. And in the process of cutting, he may die and all of us will become sinners. And Shylock says, my deeds upon my head. I stand responsible for what I want. Okay? God need not punish you all. I take responsibility for what I demand. If he dies, then he will die at my hand. God will punish me, not you all. So you need not fear God's wrath. You need not fear God punishing you. I crave the law, the penalty and forfeit of my bond. I demand for the law. I demand for his pound of flesh. I demand for all the conditions laid down in my bond. And it says, you have to give me a pound of flesh. If he dies, let God punish me. You need not be afraid. And Portia stunned. Even after her quality of mercy, nothing. So she turns around and inquires, is he not able to discharge the money? Is Antonio not able to pay back his money? And Bassanio says, yes, here I tendered it for him in court. I have it ready to give it to him. Here it is. Yeah, he says, twice the sum. I am ready to pay him double. And if that will not suffice, if double the amount will not be enough, then I will be bound to pay 10 times over. Then I will pay him 10 times the amount. And even if that will not suffice, then I am ready to forfeit my hands, my head, and my heart. I am ready to sacrifice my hands, my head, and my heart. Let him take my life if I am not able to pay him 10 times the amount. And if even that will not suffice, then it must appear very clearly that malice bears down through. If even my heart, my hand, my heart is not enough for him, then it must appear very clear that Shylock, he has malice in his heart. And because of that malice, he intends to kill Antonio. And I do beseech you. So, keeping that in mind, that Shylock has a need for revenge. Shylock has a grudge against Antonio. Shylock has malice against Antonio. Keeping that in mind, I beseech you. He's talking to Portia, who's the judge. I request you to do a rest once the law to your authority. Please twist the law a little in our favor. To do a great right, do a little wrong. In order to save my friend Antonio, do or twist the law a little so that my friend is saved. And curb this cruel devil of his will and prevent Shylock of his evil intention. So you can see how desperate Bassanio is. He knows the case is going against Antonio. He's even ready to have the law twisted. But a law that is established cannot be turned and twisted. And Portia rightly says that. She says it must not be. That cannot be. We cannot twist the law for your sake. There is no power in the whole of Venice that can alter a decree established. There is no power in the whole of Venice that can alter, that can change a decree, a law that has been established. Will be recorded for a precedent. It will be recorded as a very bad example. And many an error by the same bad example will rush into the state, and many an error by the same bad example will start entering into the laws of Venice. And wrong judgment will be passed. It cannot be. We cannot twist the law. And Shylock is happy. He says, wow, a Daniel come to judgment. Yay, a Daniel. Okay, so who was Daniel? Daniel was a very wise judge in the Old Testament. Okay, there were two priests, Jewish priests, who were trying to get fresh with a girl called Susanna. And because she would not let them have their way, because she resisted them, they started testifying falsely against her and making her out to be an evil person. And so the people were demanding for her to be put to death. But Daniel, who was a judge at that time, he found out the truth. And he proved to the people that the two priests were wrong and Susanna was right. So Daniel became very synonymous with wisdom. Even till today, if someone does something wise, they say, wow, a Daniel come to judgment. So when Portia says we cannot twist the law, we cannot wrest it to our authority, because no law established can be turned and twisted. Wrong. It will be a bad example, and many an error will flow into the laws of Venice because of this bad example that we set now. It cannot be. And Shylock is happy. He says, wow, a Daniel come to judgment, a Daniel. Oh, wise and young judge, how I do honor thee. How much I adore you. And Portia says, let me look upon the bond. Let me see the bond once again. Now, she doesn't want to see the bond. Okay? She wants Shylock to come to her to give her the bond. And when he's close enough to her, she's going to whisper to him, Shylock, take your money. That's exactly what she does. When Shylock gives her the bond, she says, here it is, most reverend doctor. You want the bond? Here, take it. And she says, Shylock, there's thrice the money offered to thee. 3 times the money is offered to you. Take it, because money is your God. You're a money lender. You'll need it. Take it. And Shylock says, an oath, an oath. I have an oath in heaven. I have made a promise to God in heaven. Shall I lay perjury upon my soul? Do you want me to commit a sin by breaking my promise to God? No, not for Venice. Even if you give me the whole of Venice, I will not break my promise to God. Okay? And the last slide. Portia says, why then? This bond is forfeit. Very well then. This bond, this agreement, this document has been breached, has been broken by Antonio. And lawfully by this, and legally, according to this bond, the Jew may claim a pound of flesh. Shylock can claim a pound of Antonio's flesh to be by him cut off nearest the merchant's heart, to be cut off and taken from close to Antonio's heart. Again, she whispers to Shylock, be merciful. Shylock, chhod de, jane de. Take thrice thy money and bid me tear the bond. Take 3 times your money and allow me to tear the bond. Okay? Allow me to destroy the bond. Get rid of the bond. It's the same thing. And Shylock says when it is paid according to the tenor, when it is paid according to the terms and conditions in the bond itself. Okay, we have come to slide number 50. Will you remember slide number 50, all of you? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
sir.
So when we start with you next time, write it down somewhere. We'll continue from slide number 50. Okay? Has the scene become easier for you, or you're still shrouded in doubt?
Very easy, sir.
It's become very easy. Now,
Yeah.
when you get the video, please go through it. Believe me, you'll enjoy it. As a matter of fact, scene 4 is the most interesting scene. Although it is very lengthy, we quite enjoy it. So go through it. And if you have the movie, okay, go through it, because then it becomes easier. At the end of Act 4, Scene 1, I will show you the movie, Act 4, Scene 1, the proper movie, okay, the BBC version, not what is floating around on the net. What is floating around on the net is a very wrong version of The Merchant of Venice. Please don't see it, because it is not verbatim. It is not word to word like it is in our textbook. It's of a very different script altogether. Don't see it. I will show you the authentic movie, the BBC version, and you will see the subtitles exactly according to how it is in the book. Okay? So, before I close, I want to once again make this announcement. All those of you who wish to avail of the PCMB crash course and the all subject crash course, okay, please use the coupon code HILBERT20. This will give you a 20% discount for all the subjects, including PCMB, and it will also give you English literature and language free of cost. Okay, in this way, you will be saving a lot of your parents' hard-earned money. So think about it, avail of it. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask me. If you don't, then I would like to call this meeting to an end. Anyone with any questions, go ahead. We are on slide number 50. Keep that in mind. Anybody? Hema, Ashta?
So 5-0, right?
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah, Abhiram, you have something?
No, so the slide number is 5-0, right?
5-0, yes.
Yes.
5-0 out of 80 or 90 slide. Chal. Bye. Good night, everyone. God bless you all.
Bye, sir.
Thank you
sir.
very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.